Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Jeff Francoeur here with Pure Athlete. Before we get to today's guest, I want to share with everyone that we have our first partnership with Booster. Now, Booster is the high school sports #1 athletic fundraising for teams and groups. And their owner and CEO is a good buddy of mine. Go to church with him and a great guy. And instead of me telling you what it is, I'm going to bring him on. So Chris Carneal, thanks for joining us.
Jeff, thanks so much. So excited to sponsor Pure Athlete. Love your message, love your vision, love the heart and the values behind it. I'm a former college athlete. I'm a coach of my boys and my daughters as well, basketball and baseball. And our company I started 20 years ago, we work with schools, K through 12, and we serve them by raising funds. The past 20 years, we've raised schools, teams, and groups over $600 million, and we want to continue to serve more schools. So if you're interested in hearing how we can come to your sports team, your school, or your group, choosebooster.com.
Again, go to choosebooster.com. Chris, thanks for being a part of this. A big supporter of youth athletics, high school athletics, and we're looking forward to a good partnership with you, man.
Absolutely. Love what you guys are doing. Look forward to serving and helping schools raise funds.
Hey, back to Pure Athlete. Jeff, Brad, and Britt here. Guys, I'm excited today. Obviously, for me, being a Clemson Tiger fan and growing up, Dabo Swinney is joining us today, and it's going to be awesome.
What a way to kick off season 2, huh?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we talked all the great episodes we had season 1, but it's college football season. You're starting to get the itch. And to have a guy like Dabo, and not just his records, but the character and the way he does it, to me, is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, as successful as he's been, I really think he's more known for just how he does things the right way. And I'm not a Clemson fan, but I'm a fan of Dabo.
Well,
no, I'll forgive you for that.
We know you are. All our audience knows you are.
Yes.
And we'll know more so today. But, you know, as you said, there's so many things. There's so much that we could talk to him about. And we know because the season kicks off here in a week and a half or so that we have limited time. So we're going to try to hit the high points that our audience really wants to hear about. Things like, you know, some input he can give on coaching, on recruiting, but as you said, on character and how, you know, what matters to kids, not just athletic skill, but what matters to coaches as they're looking to recruit kids. And so we're going to delve into all that.
Yeah, I think it's cool. When you think about the 5 pillars, what we talk about with the Pure Athlete, you know, he hits on a lot of those, man. When you're talking about grit, because I'm telling you, I've been in the locker room before and listened to a halftime speech. It's not all nice all the time. I've seen him wear those guys out, but I think like anything, in a great way. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and hope you will join us. It's going to be great.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Pure Athlete. I'm Jeff Francoeur along with Britt Lee and Brad Williams. I am excited today, guys, because, of course, as a Clemson Tiger fan, a guy that has done great things for the program up there, not just on the field but off the field. We played at Alabama. We'll forgive him for that. Small town from Pelham, but won 2 national championships at Clemson and has left an impact up there that's going to be for years. Coach Dabo Swinney. Coach, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Good to be with you.
Welcome.
You know, good to 20 years later. So I came here, Britt and Brad, I came here February of 2003 as the receiver coach. So I'm starting my 21st year. And so we had just signed this guy named Jeff Francoeur. He never showed up. He never got here. He went on to baseball, and, you know, I'd heard all about it. So, yeah, but here's the good thing. He's got all of his eligibility left, and I've told him that. He could come back to Clemson. We'd probably move him from safety to linebacker or maybe tight end, And he can have all of his eligibility. I guarantee you, we could make something out of him. No
I
doubt.
got zero chance. I told you I could be the guy to sit out there and wait for the guy to punt and maybe block a guy, chip a guy, but that's about it.
So Coach Britt and I are both Georgia Tech guys. So I was at your first game as a head coach, and a big fan. Even though, gosh, I know that we joked. We know the Clemson fight song pretty well because it's played so many times when you guys play us, so I can sing it by heart. But no, big fans of yours. Big fans.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So tell before we get going, just tell how's camp going, man? Everything getting ready for the year?
Yeah, it's great. So we're about 12 or 13 days in, and just a lot of meetings and practice. And you know how it is. You get into camp, and it's just, I love it. It's just all ball, all day. You know, just you go home, go to bed, and you get right back up, and you're back over here. But there's no distractions. We got no time limits or anything like that. We're just together all the time, and it's been great. We got a good team coming together. Got a great young quarterback. This is as veteran a group as we've had in a while on both sides. So, hopefully we can continue to stay healthy. And if we do that, I think we got a chance to have another really good team. It's been fun. So we got one more big scrimmage on Wednesday, and then we'll practice again Thursday, and then they're going to be off Friday, Saturday, kind of that little mental break, and then we'll come back in on Sunday and start our opponent prep. So it's going fast.
I was going to say it's going to be here. Yeah. So I'm going to let you start off and tell our listeners a little bit about what it was like growing up in Pelham, and for you playing sports as a kid. What was your journey like? What sports did you play, and how did that look for you growing up?
Yeah, so we moved to Pelham when I was probably about 4, and we didn't have any sports in Pelham. So we all had to travel up to Hoover, which was the big city of Hoover. So I actually started all my ball in Hoover. And my brother, I was the baby of 3 boys, and so I look back now and I'm like, holy cow, I cannot believe my mom drove us all the way to, because there was no interstate in those days either. You just had to go up Highway 31 all the way up to Hoover. Then it was a ballpark way up back on the hill. But I played, started playing baseball when I was probably about 4. And I love baseball. Actually, it's probably my most natural sport. Played baseball all the way through my senior year in high school. Started playing basketball, which is probably the sport I loved the most, in the 2nd grade. And I played all the way through my senior year. And then they would not let me – I had scoliosis as a kid, so they wouldn't let me play tackle football until the 5th grade. So I played like flag in like 2nd and 4th grade, but I started playing tackle football in the 5th grade. So from the 5th grade – but I played 3 sports my whole life, never stopped. Baseball, football, basketball, never stopped all the way through. I was a quarterback all the way up until high school. I went up in the 7th grade. I moved up to the 9th grade team. They moved me to receiver. There was a 9th grade quarterback, and I really never went back. And so that's how I became a receiver. And I was a point guard in basketball, and I was shortstop pitcher in baseball. And I loved every second of it and played my whole life, and played in all the summer tournaments, and but I played at Hoover up until I think finally in the 7th grade, knowing I was going to go to Pelham High School, I moved down and started playing with the kids in what I was going to go to high school with, because by that time they had built a little community park, and so I just never stopped, man. It never ended for me. I was either playing basketball, football, or baseball. Now, it didn't go well for my summer workout trainings because, in those days you didn't really – we had our lifts, but I always found a way to be playing in an AAU basketball game, or I was in a summer baseball game somewhere because it got me out of a workout. But, it's crazy. I went to and where I grew up playing baseball, I grew up with Jeff Brantley. And remember Jeff Brantley, longtime pitcher.
The Cowboy.
So he was my oldest brother's age. And so they were always on the same team. And then he had a younger brother. So, we had a lot of guys that came through that park at the time. But I go on to Alabama, and really I was the first one to go off to college. And I wanted to play a sport, but Alabama did not offer me a scholarship in football. they only signed 2 receivers that year, and you got to understand. I didn't understand like the world. I just thought like I couldn't believe they weren't coming to offer me a scholarship. And they signed a guy out of Mobile, and they signed a guy out of Miami, who's still one of my best friends to this day. And then basketball, you know, and I had opportunities in all 3 sports at smaller areas, but my dream was to go to Alabama. And I had a counselor that she told me about this thing called a Pell Grant and a student loan. I didn't know what any of that was, and I figured out I could go to Alabama. And I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I go to Alabama, and I remember Robert Ory. We were in freshman orientation together, and Robert's still a friend today. We were in freshman orientation, the tallest guy I'd ever seen in my life. He was Mr. Basketball in the state of Alabama. And I'm playing pickup ball, and I'm trying to figure out which sport I'm going to walk on. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I'm like, okay, baseball is probably my most natural sport, and I can go do this. And so then I find out, I had no idea that they didn't give full scholarships. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do this for books or something. If I'm going to do all this, I want to try to get a scholarship. So then I'm like, basketball, well, they got 15. And I played pickup with those guys, and I'm like, man, this is going to be a tough deal, even though that was my passion. And then football at the time was 95 scholarships. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is going to be my hardest path, but it's probably my best path. And so I walked on the football team, and, you know, rest is history. Earned a scholarship, later 3 years, played on a national championship team, and, you know, just a grinder, you know, just found my way to make a contribution and become the best version of me. And because I was involved in sports, and because I chased my dreams, you know, it opened doors for me, and it created opportunities. Because if I hadn't have done that and been a player for 5 years at Alabama, I don't get the opportunity to be a grad assistant. They offered me a chance to be a GA because they saw what I did for 5 years as a worker. And then I'm a GA for 3 years, and because of that, they hired me full time at 26. So, you know, but it was because I was involved in sports, it created these opportunities for me. And it was because I was involved in sports that I really was able to navigate life, to be quite honest with you, because my family, I had a lot of dysfunction in my family. My parents were divorced. It was a mess. But I had coaches, I had other parents in the community, I had teammates, and the structure of sports, there was no downtime. I didn't know what downtime was. I mean, I was just always working, you know, and it was a part of a team. And those dynamics really, honestly, looking back, really, I think saved the day for me, and just kept putting me in a situation where, you know, I was able to grow and mature and, you know, learn how to fail, learn how to succeed, learn how to have relationships, and to believe, you know, in myself and in my future.
So, Coach, that's an awesome story, and I want to explore a little bit of that. You know, you have a unique perspective in that you played, then you went and played in college. Now you coach, so you've kind of seen it all. You've got kids that did youth sports and have played in college. We know from statistically that like 95% of the kids who play in high school don't play beyond high school. And yet we think there's still tremendous value in the sports experience. And it sounds like you learned a lot through sports. Can you just kind of share your thoughts with parents and kids who might not get to the next level, but what that whole sports experience can do for them?
Yeah, I tell people all the time. I mean, you know, again, not everybody's going to play, you know, collegiately and certainly beyond that. But what you gain from being a part of everything great in my life came through team. Everything. I mean, you know, I've got 3 kids that came through team. You know, I didn't do that by myself. That's for sure. And everything great that I've ever been a part of came through team. And the lessons that we learn in athletics, whether you're the star player or you're the third team guy, the lessons that we learn through athletics translate to life. discipline and structure and accountability and failure and getting along with people that you maybe don't have a lot in common with and coming together for a common purpose that, hey, this guy's from over here, this guy's from over here, but man, we're together and we're on a team and man, we come together. And you a lot of people, that's the first time they experience something like that is when they're on a team. And that unity, if you will. And then just discipline. You have to have discipline. In sports, you get knocked down. I don't care how good you are, you're going to fail. And we all need to fail. Failure is a part of success. It's a part of growth. It's a part of maturation. You learn that, hey, this doesn't have to define or destroy me, man. This can just like develop me, and that's what sports teaches you. And so, you may never play a snap, but the lessons that you're going to get from being a part of something that's bigger than you, the sacrifice, the responsibility of having to be on time and be there and be committed to something and taking pride in whatever role you have, and then learning how to have respect and appreciation for other people's roles. It's limitless, the lessons that translate into life, for sure. I've had guys that I played with, years ago that, man, they were some of the most committed guys I've ever been around. And maybe they didn't play much, when the game, but they took so much pride in what they did. And that work ethic that's developed through that carries right into everything that they do. I always say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you learn how to be, your best, just be your best, especially today's world that we're in, and that, everybody's trying to, when you try to be the best, you start comparing yourself to everyone else. And that's a dangerous thing. And that's what's going on in social media and all this stuff in this outside in world. And it's really about being your best and learning how God created us to take what he gave us and let's use it to be our best and to do our best. And we all have different gifts. And I think there's nothing better than being a part of some type of team sport that really brings that out and cultivates that drive to be your best. You know what? You may never bench 300, but man, maybe you can bench 200. And chasing that and that cultivation of that drive is again, it's something that carries on forever and ever and ever. And then again, just friendships and relationships. And it only takes, and that's why I'm so passionate about, coaching and having my coaches understand how critical it is, what a responsibility we have as a coach to inspire and to motivate and to nurture the young hearts and souls that are in front of us. It's a huge responsibility. I'm like, will you be the best coach they've ever had? When they're 35, will they say, this was the best coach I ever had? And I challenge our staff in that every single year, because we need to meet them where they are. The best coaches meet their kids where they are, and then they bring them along. And, that's certainly what I try to do and what I try to get our staff to do. But, man, it's, what are the alternatives? Sitting at home, being on social media, sitting there playing the game, sitting there, growing a belly. Like, get out, let's work. Let's sweat. It's good for you. And it wasn't an option with my kids. We were doing something. And, whether they – and here's the other thing. I always tell them, play multiple sports. If you look at the NFL draft, I'll guarantee you probably 90% or more of the first rounders were multiple sport guys. Look at Frank Cooler, multiple sport guy. There's just something that comes with cross training. And maybe you're the best in this sport, and maybe you're a good contributor in this sport. And you know what? That dynamic is a really good thing for you as a competitor to experience. So, man, don't be afraid to fail. Get out there and compete. Be a part of a team. Find a way to become the best that you can be. I think that's all translates to life.
So, Coach, you obviously your story is amazing, and just kind of the adversity you overcame to get where you are. and you talked about your youth sports experience. How did your perspective change, though, when you became a dad and your boys started playing sports and you had the opportunity to coach them, I think, in youth sports, right? And then also, obviously, at Clemson. How did your perspective as a dad change any way you looked at it, any of this, or did it not change it?
I wouldn't say it changed it. It was things I always believed in. But for me, I mean, my dad wasn't able to be at a lot of things that I was involved in as a kid. I mean, he missed a lot. Whether it was his choice or not, and that was one of those things that, always bothered me. You score 26 in a basketball game and you look up and nobody's there, and that's one of those things. And I always said when I had all of a sudden, and then I have 3 boys, and I hope that they would be involved in something. And I always said, man, I'm gonna be there, as much as I can. And that's why I'm so fortunate that I became a head coach when I did, because it allowed me to get control of the calendar and the schedule. And I said early on, no job's worth sacrificing your family, and I just refused to compromise on that. And I wanted to teach our staff, because there was this perception of coaching and this mindset of, man, if you're not at the office, you're terrible. And I coached travel baseball for 12 years. I just like, well, we're not going to practice on the weekend in the spring. We'll practice Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm coaching baseball on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I want my staff to be dads. And I just started. I just was involved in everything. I coached basketball. Obviously, I couldn't coach football, but I coached basketball. And I'm as everything that I could possibly be at. And to this day, I make sure that the only time I ever missed a high school football game was if we played on a Friday night. That was it. Otherwise, I was there. And I make sure that my coaches are there. If they've got kids that are high school, I make sure they're there, and we get them if we're on the road somewhere, we get them there. Because again, you don't get that back. And but as far as, my perspective, and then here's the other thing you don't know about me. I started umpiring baseball when I was 13 and a half, and I umpired till I was 26 years old. So I had a very good perspective of the parents at a very young age.
Did you have a good ball strike zone? Did you have a good strike zone, or were you big?
I bring them out, man. They better. I tell them. I say, when you get it, I say, you better be swinging.
Better be swinging.
All right?
I love it.
Hey, I'm just telling you, you better be swinging. All right. If you say it's close, I'm ringing you up. All right. We ain't gonna be out here all day. We ain't looking for walks. We're trying to hit the ball. All right. So
love it.
You ain't hitting nothing if you don't swing the bat. But so I had this unique perspective as a player, as an umpire, as a collegiate, and then as a coach and as a parent. I kind of have the whole deal. And but I knew a lot about the parents, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to coach the travel team, because when I first got when my kids just started playing like youth baseball, I was like, what are we doing? There was no scoreboard. They didn't turn it on. They had one, wouldn't turn the scoreboard on. We had 14 kids on a team. You might get one at bat. And they started out playing in grass outfield. I'm like, all right, we ain't doing this. And and nobody won or lost. And so I'm like, no, we're gonna put a little team together. So I started at 9 years old, coached my oldest 2 till they were like 16. Then I went back down to my youngest one and coached them all the way up till 16. And you know what? About every one of those kids are playing some type of collegiate sport right now. It all over the place. And so I don't know. My perspective didn't change. I just knew that I wanted my kids to be involved. I want them to be committed. I want them to be good teammates. I want them to learn, the value of hard work. And I want them to learn that if they grind, there's no shine without the grind. Like, you got to work. You got to pay the price. And if you're not good at this, well, then let's work at it. Let's don't put your head down and pout. Let's go work at it. And all 3 of my boys really took that on. That's personally, I think that's my greatest accomplishment as a father, and really as a man, is all 3 of my boys are saved. Number 1, they made that decision. But number 2, they grew up a lot different than me. and I was always a little worried about, like, because I just came from a different deal, but they all have the same grit. They have the same work ethic, and that I'm super proud of that. They're grinders, they're humble kids. They love the work, they love the grind, and that's something that I'm really proud that we were able to instill through their sports early on. I wasn't a guy that was gonna, make an excuse for them or whatever. I'd just tell them the truth. But hey, guess what? We're going back tomorrow. And so, I wouldn't say my perspective changed. I just think I just got really more in tune when my kids started playing to what was going on.
So how do we change the mindset? Because I love that, because the thing I teach to my kids is accountability all the time, man. I tell them you got to be accountable. Good or bad, there's consequences. You look, I know you've been outspoken, Dabo, the transfer portal, to people just leaving, all this stuff now that's going on. When
even in high school.
Even in high school, yeah. I mean, where my kids go to high school, there's new football players coming in every year. And how do we get that to go back to where these kids work and there's accountability?
Parents, I think it's honestly, outside of just, if we just take God off the table here, which I think is probably the number one problem we have, yeah. It's poor parenting. We have a lot of parents that are more their friends than their parents. And we need parents. And we need to let our kids fail. It's okay. What we're doing and what we're teaching is I just think we're really doing a poor job for a bunch of future 30-year-olds. We're not equipping them properly. And we're teaching them that, when it gets hard, like instead of pushing through, you immediately look the other way. And as I tell our coaches all the time, I tell everyone, hey, listen, you don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect. So, man, you need a high level of accountability. Hey, you empower. I believe in empowering people, but you need to do it with accountability. And there has to be consequences. When there are no consequences, you have no conscience, right? And then there's chaos. And especially when you're young, no consequences is bad for older people, anybody, but no consequences for young kids is not good. And we have, we're like taking all the consequences away because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, whatever. And we're not equipping that 30-year-old version of that kid. We're just not. Most of the time, as you get a little older, you look back and probably the things that we hated the most and things that really we didn't like at the time, you know what? Those very things are sometimes become your greatest assets later in life because you were equipped through that process. And so, and I'm not saying there's not a time to leave and this and that, but I just think we've made it cool, convenient, and celebrated to give up. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that's healthy at all. And I think, the parents need to be parents and they need to understand, hey, listen, you know what? You may not be the best player or get better, or go compete or be great at your role, be committed as a teammate, So these are to me, all parenting things that I think that we've got to be better at as a society.
Coach, for that kid out there that's listening to this or watching this that has a dream of playing for Clemson and football and wants to be recruited by Dabo Swinney or his staff, and first of all, you've had great success, obviously, with championships, but really what's been amazing to me is your brand is about character, which is really one of our pillars. But if that kid is thinking about, hey, I'd love to play for Coach Swinney one day, when you're looking at a recruit and you're trying to identify a kid that's a leader, or you're trying to identify character, or those intangibles that you're looking for, what are you looking for? What are you looking at to identify that, to try to somebody who's going to fit into your culture?
Yeah, well, so we usually probably the last 5 or 6 years, we are usually second or third from the bottom in fewest offers. Okay. So we just don't offer a lot of guys. And we have a process that we don't offer freshmen and sophomores. I didn't offer Trevor Lawrence. It's probably why we got him, because I told him the truth. He had like 50 offers, and I'm like, dude, I just met you.
You're a freshman.
You don't know me. I mean, you don't know me. And you're a ninth grader. Like, can you drive a car? Can you play 2 years of varsity football? Why is that? We're offering like 8th and 9th grade. It's just crazy. I don't understand that. And I just put an end to all that. I'm like, we're not doing it. We're going to, because we're a developmental program, and we are a graduation, do we part place. This is not a catch and release. This is a place of retention. And it's always been that way. And that's how we've won. We've won through evaluation, through development, and through retention. That's how we've won here for a long time. We've never had a number one recruiting class. We're usually somewhere between 8 and 15, but we're the second winningest team in the country the last 12 years. And, we've never had a number one recruiting class, but we're second in draft picks and second in first round picks since I've been a head coach for 14 years. So, we've proven that, and it's not that we're perfect and we get it right, but we've proven that our process and how we go about things, because we are a relationship and purpose-driven place. And so, we're very transparent in the process of recruiting a kid. We're brutally honest. In fact, I spend more time trying to talk a kid and not coming. So the cool thing about Clemson is when a kid commits to Clemson, like, this guy is for real, because we've tried to talk him out of it. All right. And he's coming here for the right reasons. Because he's coming here because he really values education. He wants discipline. He wants structure. He wants family. And this is what he wants. And it's really, really cool to see how it plays out every single year. Pre-NIL, we never got the kids that could be manipulated in the process. Post-NIL, we still don't get those. And I'm perfectly fine with that. So, like, for example, we've offered 60 kids in this class of 24. We're second from the bottom in fewest offers. And actually, this team that's below us, the only reason they've offered fewer is because they signed mostly transfers. So they haven't offered many high school kids. So we're all high school kids. And to give you perspective, well, the team that's number one has offered like 480 something. All right. And we've offered 60. So it's a different way of doing things. This place is about, it's about serving their heart, not their talent. That's the whole philosophy of our program here. Is you can't serve someone's heart if you don't know them. So, long answer to your question, but when you're evaluating someone's character, our job, we don't recruit. There's no perfect people, right? Part of our job is we evaluate character, we have to develop character, and we have to also correct character, from time to time. That's just part of what we do. But character is what ultimately allows you to have long-term consistent success. That's just what I believe. John Wooden even said that. He said talent wins, character, it takes character to repeat. And it's this is a program with a heart and a soul, and it's built on no perfect people, but people with good intentions and people of good character. And so being a good player is the bare minimum to come to Clemson. Like, there's a lot of good players, honestly. There's a lot of really good football players. But then you say, okay, good football players who have the academics that we're looking for gets cut down. Good football players that have the work ethic, the love of football, the commitment, it gets smaller. And so we narrow it down. And then to answer your question, we evaluate everything. We spend a lot of time, because we don't just throw out offers like they're hubcaps. Like, when we make an offer, we know everything about this person. We've done our due diligence. We have a whole offer protocol that we're very, committed to, and it just kind of keeps us on point. But I get a report every Tuesday. What is today? Monday. So tomorrow I'll get a report tomorrow. Every Tuesday I get a report of every class of 24 and every class of 25 kid that we're tracking, kind of what we call above the line guys. And it's a whole little packet, and it's got, oh my goodness, it's got everything they liked, tweeted, retweeted, whatever. And I really don't read any of that mess. I go to one column that says questionable content, and I'm looking for a red yes. All right. And sometimes, these kids they're just not aware. They don't understand what they're doing to their future self. And so, the thing I've learned about this generation is, I can meet with a guy, and I've had lots of meetings with people, and I'm like, man, that's the nicest kid I've ever met. What a great kid. He's super nice. And then you go on his social media, and he's a psycho. He's a psychopath, right? Like, so we spend a lot of time and a lot of due diligence in trying to figure out, okay, is this kid a good fit for our locker room? Because it's my responsibility to all those parents and all those kids in that locker room, because whoever you bring in that locker room, you're sending a message to the rest of those guys that, hey, that's what the standard is and that's what you will tolerate. All right. And so we're very, and our players are very involved in recruiting. And it's a really cool thing that we have here. We got a bunch of great kids that all have been recruited. Nobody's recruited different, whether you're Trevor Lawrence, Peter Woods, or, the preferred walk-on. They're all recruited the same. I don't have to remember what I told somebody because we tell them all the same thing. And the cool thing is there's a bunch of really, really good players out there that really, really want what we offer here. And that's how we won, with that type of connectivity.
So, Coach, I want to ask you, because all that on character is so awesome. Who inspired you along those lines of philosophy of coaching, and how, the realities of the universe you live in? There's still a huge demand for winning. So, and we have a lot of coaches, even high school coaches and stuff, that are audience members. How do you balance out wanting your program to be like this and about this, but also there's a demand for winning? How do you juggle all that?
Yeah, just through my faith. Simple as that. I'm anchored by my faith. You can win, but if you're not really impacting lives in a positive way by how you win, I think you lose. That's just my belief. And, I always said I didn't even know if I'd ever be a head coach. I should come to work one day and boom, you're the head coach. And I'm like on a 1 week contract every week. That's just kind of how I look at it. In fact, I got the sign that says I was a D+ hire. That's how I look at it every day. And at the end of the day, when we get to heaven, and I tell coaches this all the time when I go speak to coaches, and we meet our maker, God's not going to care how many games we won. And he's gonna, and listen, I get it. They keep making the scoreboard bigger and bigger in Death Valley to remind me, I get it. Trust me, I understand. But, I just always said, if I ever became a head coach, man, I had this vision of how I wanted to do it, let's serve their heart, not their talent. Let's have a program that's relationship driven. Man, let's have a program that teaches these young people how to use the game of football and use this platform, not let it use them. And I just know that when I meet God, He's not going to say, He's not going to go ooh and ah how many X's and O's you knew. It's going to be more about the hearts and souls you grew along your journey. And winning is important, but sometimes the winning doesn't always take place on the scoreboard. You don't always see that. And so a lot of coaches compromise. A lot of coaches compromise because of that. And honestly, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting out of coaching in 01-02. So I coached for 8 years at Alabama. And then in 01-02, I couldn't get a job. We got fired, and I'm out of coaching. So 2 seasons. And I got at one of my old strength coaches who I had 12 years prior I was a player for. He was the president of this real estate development company. I got to have a job. I'm 31 years old. I got 2 kids, and contracts up in June, right? And so I got to go to work. And so I take this job, and man, it was amazing because for a couple reasons. One is it really gave me clarity of what I really wanted to do in my life. I knew for sure, like I know I'm called to coach, and it gave me a deeper appreciation. But here's what happened: those 2 seasons out of coaching, I mean, I was very successful. I made more money than I ever made. I had more time. I was very successful doing what I was doing, and what that did is it freed me up. You know, I had this when I came back to coaching. I took a big pay cut to come to Clemson in 2003. But I came back to coaching because I knew it was exactly what God had called me to do, number one. But I came back to coaching with a completely different mindset. I was completely fearless. And I still am to this day, in that, I know I can be successful doing something else. I know I can. I mean, and that is a freeing thing. And I think sometimes there's a lot of coaches out there that they have fear. They have fear of that scoreboard, and maybe they're not grounded with their faith. And so for me, it all comes back to my faith and being grounded in that and making sure that I keep the main thing, and that I just focus on my purpose. And my purpose is to glorify God in all I do, be a great husband and father, and to use the platform of education and football to build great men that become transformational leaders in society. And if I focus on that, then I just think the winning will take care of itself. And so that's just my mindset, and I don't worry about any of the rest. And if we don't win enough and they tell me to move on, guess what? I know I can go do something else. And but I would rather lose trying to do it right than to win knowing that we didn't.
Amen.
We appreciate that as college football
Well,
fans.
finishing up, final couple questions for you. I know you're busy. What's your biggest win and the toughest defeat you've had?
Oh man, biggest win. I mean, there's a few of them. I mean, probably the biggest one would be my last game as an interim in 2008 when we beat. Because we beat South Carolina in that game. We're going to finish 4-2. And they're probably going to have to give me a chance. I figure they're going to maybe give me a year contract or something. Like they're going to have to. But if we lose that game, it's probably a good chance I don't get the job. And but we dominated the game, and in the fourth quarter, the crowd's cheer. I'm like, they're going to have to give me the job. There's going to be a march on the campus if I don't get at least a year. And that's really all I wanted. Honestly, I just wanted just let me have a year, because, I got the job in the middle of the season.
Yep.
And I mean, it's great. And I was like, let me just have a year. We had created some momentum. We went 4-2 and so that was probably the biggest win, because that probably, secured me getting the job and gave Terry Don just enough, probably credibility to be able to say, hey, let's give this old boy a chance. That obviously was huge, but then certainly, beating Alabama in the national championship in 16 with 1 second on the clock, the walk-on wide out catches the game winner. I mean, that was like something out of a Hollywood movie. That was crazy, unbelievable moment. A lot of huge. They're all huge. But those were big.
I liked a couple years later when we drummed them out in Santa Clara.
Yeah, that was good too. Yeah.
Because I had a lot of Alabama fans at my house, and I would lock the door, and I did not let them leave.
It was a long fourth quarter.
You're staying right here. So, what's the toughest defeat you've ever had?
Oh man, toughest defeat probably the 2015 national championship game. Every defeat's tough too, as you know. I mean, part of you dies almost when you put so much into it. But that 2015 game, we were 14-0. I thought we had it might have been our best team, honestly. And we had like 600 yards on Alabama out there in Arizona. And we got the lead in the fourth quarter. So we are 127-3 since like 2011 when we take a lead into the fourth quarter. And so you're always like, well, what are those three? Well, that was one of them. So we got a lead in the fourth quarter, and they kicked that onside.
Yep.
And kind of caught us napping. And then they had a kick return 100 yards in the fourth quarter that really won the game. And so we lose 45-40 because I already had it played out in my mind. I mean, like we're in the national championship game. It's Alabama. Like we're winning this game. And, it was like this bad movie because my jersey number was number 88 at Alabama. And every time I looked up, that number 88 from Alabama was scoring a touchdown. He had like 2 massive plays. It was like, just didn't go the way I wanted to. That one hurt because you just, that locker room was tough.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was a part of our journey, and we come back the next year and we win it all. But those are, there's a few of them along the way that stick with you.
Yeah. Last question for you, Coach, and we're going to let you go. What's your advice to coaches? I'm talking not just at your level, but Little League coaches, the people that are coaching my kids, the people that are investing time into the future of our sports. What's your advice to them?
Well, first of all, know what you're talking about. Okay. Do like prepare, right? Don't just show up and not have a plan. Like know what you're talking about. Put a little work into it. If you're going to lead and you're going to coach, then make sure you study whatever it is you're coaching. All right. So that you can really help them get better. That's number one. And then number 2, man, love the kids. Love the kids, love them. And part of loving them is having discipline, and holding them accountable, having some consequences, but certainly, just figure out, I think the best coaches figure out where each kid is. And again, you try to meet them where they are and help them get better. And that should be every coach's goal, is to just, when the season's over, whether the best player got better, the worst player got better. And that only happens when you're very intentional with your relationships and you're very intentional with your teaching. Man, these are kids. These are kids, if you're coaching at the Little League level, hey, give them all, cross-train them, give them all different experiences. This is an opportunity to you never know how some of these kids are going to turn out. I mean, I've coached kids that were the quarterback that became the left tackle, right? And the guy that was the point guard that became the center. You just never know how these guys are going to turn out. So cross-train them, teach them the game and the bigger picture of things. But again, more importantly, don't miss the opportunity to pour into them as young people. Sometimes you as the coach, you're going to have the most influence on that kid that maybe anybody has. So I just think, again, that's a huge responsibility, whether you're coaching 8-year-olds, 8th graders, or seniors in high school. Man, your platform of influence is huge. So, man, take full advantage of that and make sure that you're teaching them life through the game. There's so many opportunities to do that. And then if they buy into you, hey, this guy can help me and he really cares about me, man, they're going to listen, and if you can tell them why, you got them. These kids today, they'll still work. They'll still do whatever you want to do. When I was growing up, if the coach said, go run the bleachers, you just went and ran the bleachers. You didn't ask questions, right? These kids will still do that, but now they just want to know why. So make sure you can tell them why. And if you do that and you create those relationships, man, they're going to listen to you. So that'd be the biggest advice I would give them, man. Love those kids, be knowledgeable, and, do everything you can to help all of them get better.
Coach, thank you, man. And
That's awesome.
Make sure this year you pour on the fight song for these guys when Georgia Tech's playing.
Come on, give us a little bit of break.
I don't think that's a problem.
I want them to hear it.
Boys coming to the Valley this year. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, man, you guys welcome up here anytime. Y'all come see us, and hope this works out good for y'all.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so
man.
much.
Thank you, man.
This was great.
It looks like a really fancy place. Are y'all in like a garage somewhere? It looks like really
A basement,
We're a
man. You
basement.
got it. You're close.
You called it.
pretty cool.
Hey, thanks, man. Enjoy
luck.
the rest of camp. Hey, guys. Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.